Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Om Shanti Healing's podcast, The Spiritual Connection. We are going to go on a journey today with my friend Stephanie. She has been on an intensive healing journey for the past 9 years. And during this time, she's dedicated herself to understanding trauma. Trauma in regards to how it impacts her personally and effective strategies for healing. Her journey has encompassed various aspects, including mother wounds and father wounds, witch wounds, narcissistic abuse, sexual abuse, and the grooming around that. In Stephanie's professional career in life, she works at a high school where she puts her heart out to strive to help to nurture young lives and students and staff as well, and even the parents of those students. And she's found that people are naturally drawn to her because of her sensitivities and all that she's experienced. They feel comfortable and open around her. And she believes it's because of her the energy that she carries around all the healing that she's done in her life and that has taken place. So thank you so much, Stephanie, for being here. I love and appreciate and honor the truth that you're about to share. And you just give what you want, okay?
Yes, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk about these things.
Yeah. And your intention here is to help others. You know, the podcast is the intention around it is to help others see the light out of dark places in their lives, you know, how to dig out of the trenches and so forth. So I would like to begin your story when it all kind of started, when you were a child and the
Yes.
stuff that your mother did to you. Can we kind of start there and how you all started? Yeah, you felt it kind of something was wrong, something was off.
Right.
Yeah,
So
let's begin there.
really, it began after my parents split up. My parents got divorced when I was 4. Um, my mother hated my father. She still hates him to this day. They haven't talked to each other in decades, but she would tell me that, I was a daddy's girl when I was little, and she was always kind of jealous of that. And so I feel like she really did her best to kind of drive a wedge between us. And so she would lie to my dad about things and lie to me about things. And over time, it really did kind of drive us apart from each other. And so my mother kind of isolated me. But when I was 5, and I remember this very clearly because it's such a weird and disgusting thing to say to a 5-year-old, was that no man will ever love you unless you're having sex with him. That men are incapable of love, and that they will lie to you and tell you that they love you just to have sex with you. So growing up, I started to have this belief that in order to find love, I would have to have sex with people, and I ended up getting pregnant at 15. I just, everyone asked me, how could this happen? How did this happen to you? Like, what's going on with you? And I never really understood it when I was young. Um, all of the puzzle pieces that ended up creating this picture of the person that I was turning into as a young person. And I really think it started there with her telling me that no man will ever love you unless you're fucking him, is really what she said to me. And she reiterated that throughout my life. Um, she would sexualize me to her friends and then shame me for being sexual, and then sexualize me and then shame me. And it just kept going in this cycle where there was a lot of weirdness around it. And it was something I was always thinking of. I ended up being a very hypersexual, teenager and, young adult in my early 20s. And it took me down some paths that were very dark. And for many years of my life, I just felt like I was in complete darkness and I didn't know how to get out. Um, so, I mean, yeah, it started with her really kind of planting these seeds that never should have been planted.
Cool. And this
Yeah.
is the grooming that you were
Yeah.
telling me about when we spoke
And so,
before.
yes, this is how the grooming started was, as a little girl, it was, hey, no man's ever going to love you unless you're fucking him. Men are incapable of love. And then, hey, you, she would be drunk. She was also an alcoholic. I haven't spoken to her in 7 years, but she was an alcoholic. Uh, there's a lot of rumors around her doing other drugs too, but I never saw that. She would always send us to our bedrooms when she would have like parties at the house. So as I got older and she was more drunk, and I I developed very early as a kid. When I was 12, there were grown men who would holler at me from their cars, that would come up to me at the mall, that her friends that were 10 years younger than her, that were, in between her and my ages. She was, 22 when she had me. So her friends, I was 14, they were in their mid 20s. They would try and talk to me. And sometimes she would be like, do you know how old she is? She's only 14. They'd be like, oh, I'm going to back off. And then she'd be like, hey, she's got the perfect mouthful of tits for you, which who says that about their 14-year-old daughter to her friends in their 20s? So she, her friend, one of her friends was the first one to rape me when I was 14. And when that happened, he stole my bike. Um, and no one ever saw him again. But one of her other friends who had caught wind that maybe something had happened tried to tell her about it. She called me a whore and then was mad about my bike being stolen more than she was upset about this man breaking into our house at 4:30 in the morning and coming up into my bedroom. So, fast forward a year, I get pregnant, and she, instead of trying to like talk to me about it or be supportive of me through that or try to do anything to support me through that, really, um, she laughed at me and told me I was going to be fat at the doctor's office when I had this pregnancy test done. So, you know, she was all over the place, I never knew what I was going to get from her. And I know that I don't think that she intentionally tried to groom me. I don't think she understood what she was doing, because her biological father molested her as a little girl. And no one ever talked about this. She told me about it one time because we didn't even know he existed. I had no idea what he looked like. I didn't know anything about him until a couple of years ago. Actually, I had no idea. And so I think that her own trauma led to her continuing this kind of cycle and projecting it onto me. And even though I don't think she meant to do it, she also wouldn't accept responsibility for what was happening. And she still doesn't. Like I said, we haven't talked in 7 years. And it's been much more peaceful in my life without her around. Um, but a lot of the peace that I've attained since then is because I've allowed myself to grieve the loss of her, to accept that I do not have the mother that I deserved, that I wanted, and I won't ever have the mother that I always wanted and deserved, especially as a little girl. But I can still have happiness, and I don't have to let that cycle continue with me.
Such bravery, Stephanie. My goodness. Having
Yeah.
her out of your life is safe.
It's so
She
much
does
better.
not deserve you.
No, and it's so much better. And, the way that she treated me, um, my brother tried to stick up for me, and so she shut him out. So she has four grandchildren that one of them she doesn't even know exists at this point. Um, doesn't know any of them anymore. And that's the choice that she's made. And There was never any remorse from her. There was never uh, an honest sorry from her and an acknowledgement of her behavior. And it's just, she is a narcissist. And I discovered this when I first moved to Colorado in 2016. So it's been a little over 9 years now. When I moved in with her, I moved my whole family across the country from New York, from upstate New York. I'm from Rochester. Uh, we moved our whole family across the country. She had been begging us for years, please come out here, please come out here. I don't drink anymore. I'm a whole different person. I just want you guys here. You guys can just live here for free in my house. Just make as much money as you can so you can buy property. All these promises were made. And I believed her. I wanted to trust her. I wanted that relationship with my mom.
Yeah, of
And
course.
we moved into her house and we were only there for 7 months. The day that we arrived, she wasn't even there to greet us. Like she didn't even tell anybody that we were going to arrive that day. So that was like the first red flag. And I was just like, why wouldn't you even be here? You've been asking for this for 6 years. And when we got here, we sold basically everything that we had in New York. I sold my car, we sold all of our furniture. I had the bare minimum of items that were for my son, like bedding, some dishes. It was like we didn't even fill up our U-Haul truck. So we got here though, and she just looked at me with this disgusted look on her face and was like, I thought you got rid of all your shit. And I'm just like, what? Like we did get rid of everything. Like this is just like the bare minimums that we need. And from there, it just went downhill. Um, she was belligerent all the time to me. She started taking out her anger. She was drunk all the time. Um, and she would just cry about how awful I am when I would put my foot down and say, I'm not going to accept this behavior from you. You're not going to treat me this way. My brother said, you're not going to treat her that way. And I'm like, you're not going to treat my kid this way either. Because at the time, my son was only 4 years old. I mean, he was very little, and she was cussing him out while he's in the bathroom. Like, that's not okay. He's a little baby. And I quickly started to realize I started having all these feelings in my body again that reminded me of when I was 14, when I was 15, when I was 12, 13 years old, where I started going into a very, very deep depression. I was having anxiety attacks multiple times a week. I was cutting myself. I was doing a lot of self-harm. I was fascinated by drugs, could never find any, so I never did any, but I wanted to do them all. I wanted to live my life hard and fast and just like be done with it. And so in high school, before I got pregnant, my life goal at that point was to go to California and get into porn, because that's where I thought I would be loved the most. And I could do porn, I could do all the drugs and then just die young. Because what else is there to live for, right? Life was pretty miserable. It was very dark. My mom told me that I was just crazy, that I had no reason to be depressed or anxious. And when I was living with her again as an adult, I felt these feelings again, this anxiety, this depression, this just overwhelming sense of like dread, really. And I was like, I can't be here. I was like, I understand now what's happening. And one of my girlfriends who I've known since high school, she actually sent me an article about narcissistic abuse. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that term even. And when I read it, I was like, this is my mother to a T. This is exactly her. And then I quickly realized this is also my husband at the time, who's now my ex-husband. I married my mom and I realized I can't believe I did this. What is happening? How did I end up with two of them now in the same house? And so we moved out of her house and we moved up to Grand Lake. And when we left, she trashed us to my family, and no one in my family really talks to me anymore either. And I'm fine with that. It made me really sad at first. I also had to kind of grieve the loss of like my grandmother. She's still alive. And, you know, my aunts who I was close with. And, she put an ultimatum on everybody else. Like, if you're going to talk to Stephanie, then you're not going to talk to me. And I was like, why would you allow someone to put an ultimatum on you like that? Like, I'm not asking anyone to choose between us. Like, the problems between her and I are between her and I. So she caused a lot of damage in my life, in my brother's life, in my kids' lives, just pretty much everyone who gets really close to her. And so when I started learning about the narcissistic abuse, once we got away from her, I turned and started really looking at my life that in my marriage because my husband was also sexually abusing me. People don't want to believe in marital rape, but it's real and it happens. And it happened a lot in my marriage. And that one, that one's really hard because, we do have a son together and I stayed with him for so long because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. You know, as a kid too, I was told like you have to have your babies and you have to be married by 25. After 25, it's downhill for women and you're going to be old and washed up, basically,
Told
which is
you that? Was that another thing that your mom
my
instilled in
mom.
you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was for my mom too. My grandma had her when she was 19. My mom had me when she was 22, and so it was like if you have your kids young, then you can get it out of the way. And then like when you're old and nobody wants you anymore, then you can actually live your life. Which is kind of like not good advice. I don't recommend that to anybody. Like figure
Yeah.
out your life and figure out if you actually want to have kids, figure out if you can even handle supporting kids because it's a lot. And I got pregnant at 15. I had my daughter about 2 months after I turned 16, and I finished school. I went to cosmetology school. I joined the Air Force. And while I was in the Air Force, I was in the reserves. So I was stationed in Niagara Falls, New York. And she gave me 2 weeks to either find my own place or to move to Colorado. And at that point, I couldn't move to Colorado yet because I had just gone to family court with my daughter's dad for joint custody. Like we just had court papers completed. I can't leave now. So I ended up being homeless and didn't really have a place to go. My family wouldn't let me live with them. My best friend's mom said I could live with her, but my daughter couldn't stay there. So my daughter went and lived with her dad and her grandma. And that's where they're the ones who mostly raised her. And I was just lost, completely lost, and had no idea what I was doing. I was just surviving, just in survival
Yeah.
mode.
Totally.
And it really wasn't until I turned 30 and I ate some mushrooms for the first time where my life now, I knew that my life could take a different direction. I didn't have to be stuck anymore. Uh, the mushrooms really, I attribute the mushrooms so much to my healing, but also I've read probably close to 90 books on trauma and healing trauma, and I've done seminars and women's circles, and I've really put in the work. Like I've really, really put in the work because I felt like I was already dead at one point. When I was leaving, before I left my ex-husband, I told him, I was like, you need to either quit drinking or where it's over. I can't stay with you anymore. And he said, well, I'm not going to quit drinking. So I was like, well, how am I going to leave? Because he says he's going to kill me or take my son or just beat the hell out of me if I leave him. And I was like, well, I already feel dead inside. Don't even know who I am anymore. I was just kind of a shell, kind of just kind of drifting through life. And it's like, you're either going to kill me or you're going to let me leave. I don't care anymore. And so he didn't, thankfully. But it was really at that point where I was just like, I have nothing else to lose. There's nothing left in me. I have to either kill me or let me go because I'm already dead. Like I'm not myself. I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am beneath all of these layers of abuse that have happened to me. And after I left him, he, you know, initially acknowledged, like, I know I said I would kill you, but like, I never actually meant it. And it's like, well, you've been saying it for years and you're a really scary person. So how was I supposed to know that, like, oh, this is the time he's not being serious? Like all the other times when he's, you know, lied and like been doing things behind my back, mostly drugs behind my back. But how was I supposed to know? And I brought it up to his friends and family, and they were like, ha ha ha, ha. Yeah, he would do that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And to them, it was like a joke because they all kind of knew him his whole life. And they're just like, yeah, Dan's crazy. That's something he would do.
Well, that's not very comforting, is it?
No. So at that point, I
Because
was just like,
a spouse is not supposed to be in any realm of that, you know.
no,
The
it's
right
not.
kind of spouse is who you have now.
Yes, I have an
And
amazing husband right now. We just got married in July. We got married on our 6 year anniversary. So we've been together for a while already, but he's incredible. He's very supportive. He, has allowed me the space to continue to do this healing. And he's watched me, break down and then build myself back up again and then tackle the next thing and watch me break myself down and then build myself back up again over and over again. There has been so many things that I've been able to heal because he's just given me that space to be able to do that without being like, this is stupid or I don't understand. And so it's not real. My ex-husband, he would always tell me, like, that didn't happen. It's like, it did happen. Like when he raped me the day I came home from giving birth after I had our son. I came home from the hospital, have stitches, and I'm bleeding and swollen, and he won't take no for an answer. And so I have to just beg him to just please be gentle with me then. Please just don't hurt me because it already hurts, right? Like if anyone's given birth, you know that when you come home from the hospital, you don't want to do that. That's not something you want to do.
no,
And it wasn't the first time he did this. The first time he did it, we were actually at a hotel and we had been drinking. And I thought, hey, maybe maybe I'll put porn on. We've never done that before. That might be fun. He lost his mind. Oh my God, he went crazy and he like wedged me in between the bed and the wall and just like mushed my face while I'm like crying and he just wouldn't stop. And I had bruises on me and that happened so many times. And in my head though, it's just like, oh, well, that's what a wife is supposed to do. You're supposed to just do that when your husband wants to. And if I don't want to, you know, I don't know. I had really, really fucked up thoughts around it. And I didn't know how to tell anybody. And I was too ashamed, really, to even admit it to myself that that's what was happening to me. And so a lot of the healing I've had to do has started with just admitting that it even happened. Like my husband did rape me many times, and before we were together, I was on a very self-destructive path because my mom left, I was homeless. I had these horrible ideas of things that she had told me as a kid. And so I turned to alcohol and I would binge drink. I've never been drunk in front of my kids, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very proud of myself for that. So like because of my mom, I was like, I'm never gonna be drunk in front of my kids. And so when my daughter was gone with her dad's, then I would drink and I would binge and I would black out and I would end up in situations where I'd wake up with strange men on top of me. Um, One time I went to Canada because I lived in Niagara Falls at the time. I went to Canada across the border. It used to be really easy to cross the border. And I met a guy in a club and I was really drunk. And I went back to his hotel room and there was four other guys there waiting. And all of them took turns on me, you know? And after that, I remembered I shoved that down for a long time. And I remembered going back to my car after that and sitting in there and just crying and being like, this didn't happen, this didn't happen, and just telling myself over and over again, this didn't happen, like just like block this memory out, like this didn't happen to me. And for 10 years, I didn't think about it at all. And when I started healing myself, all of these things just started regurgitating up into my brain. And I was just like, I had this like flash of this memory. And I was just like, oh my God. I was like, I remember this. And it took me a while before I was even able to admit like that happened to me. And a part of healing is admitting it. And then, even if it's just like briefly, okay, it happened. Now I don't want to think about it because it's too much. But each time I would come back to it and I would come back to it and have to tell myself, like, it's not happening to me right now. Right now, I'm sitting in my room. Right now, I'm safe. No one's trying to hurt me. No one's trying to do anything to me. And that's really how you heal from these things. You have to rewire that trigger so that you know, like, this horrible thing happened. And I am able to take a breath and sit with it and remind myself that I'm safe and that I'm okay and that it's not happening anymore. And then eventually I can tell somebody about this because when you bring it out, it can't do any damage anymore. When you say it out loud, it frees you from this. When you hold on to it and you just keep it to yourself and you don't know where to do with it, it has nowhere to go. It stagnates and turns into resentment and anger and all of these feelings that then you come up in your body every time you have these thoughts or something triggers you. And I don't really have any triggers anymore. Talking about it can be emotional, but ultimately, like talking about it with you, like I'm at home right now. My dog's over here being annoying, barking at stuff outside, but I'm safe. No one's trying to hurt me. No one's doing anything to me. There's nothing bad in my life. I have such a beautiful life now. And it's because I've been able to heal this. And sitting with your triggers is the first step to healing them too. You have to admit it, then you have to be able to sit with it, and then you can let it go and you can be released from the pain that it causes. And mushrooms have helped me heal myself leaps and bounds beyond what I thought was even possible. I thought I was so damaged. I thought I was so broken. I felt like I don't even know who I am. What am I even interested in anymore? What? what do I even like to do? I had no idea. My life had revolved around making my mother happy and then making my ex-husband happy. It was never about me. And it was always me just trying to escape through alcohol. And I don't really drink anymore. I maybe one drink a month, if that. And I still eat mushrooms. I microdose. I'll do a big dose every once a couple times a year, maybe. But there's so many studies now that will show that psilocybin mushrooms can help the synapses in your brain, can reconnect synapses. It can actually help rewire like neural pathways in your brain so you can cure yourself. And it has been shown in studies to actually cure people's CPTSD and their PTSD. And when I discovered this, I've always used mushrooms very intentionally. It's never been a party drug for me. It's always been, I have all of this inside of me. How do I open the door to let it out so that I can face it and heal it
Yeah.
and allow it to leave so that I can now take in have more gratitude, have more abundance, have more kindness, have more love. So your heart is just filled with anger. It's hard to stuff love back in there.
Yeah.
And
There's no room.
there's none.
Can
Yeah. And
can
that's,
you
you
can
know,
you walk us through, thank you, first of all, for sharing such intense your intense life. I'm speechless. I just want you to be able to just get it out and heal again in another layer by just sharing. And I am so grateful and appreciative of you for doing that. And I'm so sorry for all that you went through. That is immeasurably torturous and sad in what you went through.
it's
I am
a
processing because
lot. Yeah.
I Stephanie's a new friend of mine and I haven't heard all of the story. This is, a lot of firsts for what you've been through. And my gosh, you are one strong, resilient woman.
I really
Really,
try.
I
You
can't even.
know, with my daughter, I didn't want her to take on my trauma, because if I don't heal my trauma, there's this saying that if you heal your trauma within you, it heals the generations before you and the generations after you. And I really believe that because my grandma had a lot of trauma. My grandma's Native American. She I've never known her with her natural hair. She lightens her skin, she bleaches her hair, she holds her lips in to make them look thinner because she used to be harassed for being brown. And that passed on to my mom. My mom used to send me out into the sun with baby oil on because I was too white. So I would end up just burning and blistering all over my body. And, she had a lot of self-hatred because she's also brown, and then I'm her white child because my dad's white. And so there's a lot of trauma with how they look, with sexual trauma, physical abuse trauma, with my mother not having her biological father in her life. She had my grandpa as her dad, um, but he passed away a few years ago. Um, but they have continuously passed their trauma onto their daughters, and they passed it on to me, and I'm not passing it on to my daughter. I want
It's
to
beautiful.
be an example to her that no matter what happens to you, you can still be okay.
Does
That
she know your story? Do your kids know what your story? And
no,
because they
not
know
really. Not my son. My son's 13, and I think that I don't think he's ready for that. Um, Especially to learn about the things that happened with his dad. He loves his dad. I'm Maybe when he's older, I'll share with him, but my daughter has an idea, but I didn't feel like, she one time was like, you can tell me. And I was just like, I don't know that I was ready to share with her,
Right.
and so I haven't. I did share with her that I was going to be talking with you and what the topic of our discussion was going to be. So she has an idea, and I mean, and she was there when I was with my ex-husband. So she, saw his anger, his temper, the way, his alcoholism, he's he's bipolar. So sometimes I'd come home from work and he would have a bottle of whiskey almost gone, and there would just be like heavy metal playing at 11:30 at night because I worked the evening shift at urgent care. And I'd come home from work and he's got like one of those like medieval tool thing. It's got like the handle with like the chains and like the spike balls on it. And he would just be swinging that thing around and just like smashing it into the furniture. Or he'd have like an axe and just like be chopping it into the tables or the walls and would just be crazy. And so like she's seen a lot and he wasn't kind to her. And before we were married, he was. And I didn't see all of the things that he did, but she did share with me after we divorced, like, hey, he was really, really mean to me when you weren't around. And I'm like, I wish I had known. But had I known at that time still, would I have been brave enough to do anything about it? Because I was so scared of him also, So it's like, I don't know even know what I could have done, what I would have done at that time with the mindset that I had at that time. And
Right.
so I try not to shame myself for it because I was scared of him. She was scared of him, and I was still there. So it makes sense to me that, she didn't tell me at the time because I was putting up with it. So, but I don't want her to inherit this. So I want this trauma cycle to stop here. And she is amazing. She's going to be 23 in a couple of weeks, and she is so mature. She is so emotionally intelligent. She has a great career. She's a stylist in a really nice salon in downtown Rochester. She has a plan for her life. She has goals. And I'm just like, at 22, I was like, when do I get off work so I can go to the bar? Like that was pretty much it. Like I worked at the hospital, I was working in the emergency room, I was a medical assistant. I was on a code team, so I was also then working in trauma, other people's trauma and absorbing all of this because as an empath, you before you learn to protect your energy and before you learn how to differentiate your energy from somebody else's, you're just a sponge and you
Yes.
just sponge up everything. And then you have no idea, is this me? Am I anxious? Am I going crazy? Why do I feel this way? Why is there all this tightness in my chest? Why does my stomach hurt? Why am I having all these headaches and these migraines? And, you know, learning how to differentiate energy is life-changing.
Yeah.
I
What's
don't
yours and what's not yours, and being able to protect yourself from it.
exactly. And
Yeah.
for the longest time, I was just like, I don't know how to do that. And I was so stuck. And once I learned, now I feel like I can actually help people, right? Because people come to me with their sorrows and their trauma and their pain and their stuckness. And I can be like, all right, this is your feelings. They're not my feelings. So I don't have to absorb them. I don't have to take them on. And so through that, I've been able to help other people. And I see that in her too, and she talks to me. We're very close. And she just, man, I tell her all the time, I'm just like, you're so inspiring. Like, I just admire you. I admire you so much for being just so light years ahead of where I was at the exact same age,
Yeah.
you know. And I mean, I give her grandma and I used to really butt heads on a lot of things, as we would when a grandma is raising their grandchild and mom is kind of a disaster. But, you know, her grandma's always been there for her, and her grandma has done a really great job. And, I was there in the summers and on the every other weekend and holidays, but like mostly she was there during the week. She went to school out there. She lived with me and my ex-husband for a couple of years before we moved to Colorado. She didn't want to move to Colorado with us, which I think was probably for the best,
Mhm.
even though it was really hard because she was still in high school. But one of the big reasons that we ended up having to leave New York was because my ex-husband wanted to join this motorcycle club. That's a one percenter club that runs guns, that sells meth, that's doing all kinds of shady shit that I did not want to be involved in my life. And I had to get us out of there no matter what. And we were trying to buy a house in New York at the time, but everything fell through. At the time, I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. Like everything was supposed to work out, but like life doesn't work out for the best reasons, And in in the moment, I was 29 and just like, why me? Why is this not working out? I just want my own house. And it didn't work out. And I told him, I was like, if it doesn't work out, we're going to move to Colorado. And he agreed to that. And then it didn't work out. Thank God. Because he would have ended up joining that motorcycle club. He'd probably be back in prison. And, you know, who knows where I would be?
Right.
No idea. No
Right.
idea.
It
My
sounds
life
like a
would
really
be.
dangerous situation there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely would have been. And so getting him out of there too, though, even though we are divorced now, and it was a really, really nasty divorce, and I have a lot to say about the family court system in this state and just the complete corruption and just they are so corrupt. Oh God, it's a lot of resentment there still. But he hasn't drank alcohol since last October, which I'm grateful for
You still
because
communicate with him?
yeah, I mean, I have to. We have a parenting plan, but so like I still have to communicate with him. It was really bad for the first couple of years, but it'll be 8 years in January that we've been split up. And so he lives in up in the mountains. He's still in Grand County, but he's kind of isolated, which is probably the best thing for him.
Yeah. It sounds like he's the kind of guy that needs to be isolated.
Yes.
Keep him
And
away from everybody else.
right. And
Yeah.
through
Sounds
that,
good. Yeah. My
like
God.
through our marriage dissolving, being faced with potential child abuse charges, being hospitalized for alcohol, poisoning, just losing friends, having family, push you away. I think he finally started to realize, like, hey, maybe I am the problem in my own life. And so he's come a long way. He still has a long way to go. But, it's baby steps. He's just a little delayed, but we get along better. He's currently making some pretty poor choices, but uh, that's a whole other.
Is he working?
He does work. He's a mechanic,
Mhm.
and so he has a job, but he's still a very selfish person, and he's engaged to a girl that he's known for a month who just got out of sober living and isn't allowed to leave Larimer County for a year. And so I'm like, these are not great choices. And, he says he's really happy and they're both trying to be sober together, which is great. Um, but it's just not a month, a month you're engaged. You don't even know this person.
Right. Like, yeah.
Who is
He
this?
sounds like a
Yeah.
real piece of work. Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's shift gears. And I'll let you get on with your day here shortly, but I want you to just talk on for a moment kind of your experience with the mushrooms. And do you recall kind of the process by which things started to come up? And what did that look like? What did that feel like? Was it scary? Was it elation?
So,
Like, share what you saw, what you felt, and
yeah.
like moments of shifting. Can you talk on that a
Yeah.
little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So, um, living in New York, I don't know what it is. Mushrooms are so hard to come by. Out here in Colorado, they just grow everywhere. Like it's so easy to find them. Plus, they've decriminalized them in this state, which they're not in New York. New York is still pretty hardcore about, you know, no smoking, no drugs, the whole thing. Um, but out here, so I moved out here on my 30th birthday. My brother gave me one little mushroom, just like one little one. He's like, just this is like a microdose. Just try this, and just like, when you feel it, just like relax. He's like, don't fight it. And I was like, all right, I think I can handle that. And he's like, it takes like maybe 20 to 30 minutes to kick in. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard you tell me that before. Like, right? Like he gave me the first time I ever ate edibles, he told me that it would take about a half hour to kick in. And it took like 2 hours. So then I ended up eating way too much and it was a really bad time. So, so I was like, I don't feel anything. Let me
You
eat
do
another
that with
one. I
mushrooms
still don't
too.
feel anything. So like with the mushrooms, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna eat this little one. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
baby
wait.
steps.
Right. I'm just gonna wait because I have no idea what this is gonna be like. Never did it before. And so I was standing at the kitchen sink washing some dishes when we were in my mom's house, way out east on the Eastern Plains. And I just remember I had my earbuds in and I was watching Zeitgeist the movie, which is a really awesome documentary. But I ate this mushroom, washing dishes. I'm like, I'm just gonna do the dishes while I wait for it to kick in. There's not much in the sink. It'll take me no time. All of a sudden, I start to feel this kind of warming kind of sensation, just like kind of like flourish throughout my body. And I remember like feeling like, oh, it kind of tickles, like kind of feels good. Kind of tingly, kind of warm, kind of like butterflies in your belly, but everywhere. And I watched this documentary, and Zeitgeist the movie is kind of like a government conspiracy documentary. And I was like, oh my God,
Tell me the name
never
of it
heard
again.
of these ideas.
Tell me.
Zeitgeist, the movie.
Zeit.
Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Zeitgeist, I think.
Zeitgeist.
Yes.
Okay. I'll
And
check that
so
out.
it's really good. But it was about government conspiracy. And I was like, whoa, never heard of any of these things before. Like, I only knew, 10th, global history in high school. And so I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I just felt like parts of my brain were just being unlocked and like doors were being opened that I didn't even know were in there. And I all of a sudden was like, I want to take a shower. I get in the shower and I just feel all the drops of water and it just feels amazing. And after that, I was like, what else is out there that I don't know? What else is out there that I've never considered or heard of? And so I just started going down these rabbit holes of the government, for one, because I am a veteran. I was in the Air Force, and I was just like, I left because I knew that there was some shady stuff going on, but I didn't know what it was. And I was just like, I just don't like what's happening here. And so I left the Air Force, and then I was like, oh, interesting. I'm learning so much. And then it was probably a year and a half after that first experience where someone gave me some more mushrooms. And I was like, okay. And I had just left Dan at that time. I had just left him. It was in January in the middle of the winter. And one of my girlfriends, I was like, hey, have you ever done mushrooms before? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, do you want to do them with me? And she was like, yeah. So we made a plan. We put all of our snow gear on because it was January. I was living in Grand Lake at the time. And so it was very cold out. And we put our snow pants, all this stuff, and we go out and walk onto Lake Granby. And it's frozen solid. There's ice fishermen out there all the time, about 18 inches of ice. So we go out there and it's cloudy. And I'm just like, oh man, I was really hoping that we'd be able to see the stars. And so we're just laying on the ice and like just talking and like laughing and crying and just all the emotions and all the things that come up while you're on mushrooms. And all of a sudden, like the clouds started to sink down. And now they're like on the ground and it just looks like fog, but now the sky is just clear and just full of thousands of stars. And it was so beautiful. And I was laying there and now like we would do them together, but we're each on our own separate journey while we're on mushrooms together. So like we're there for each other if something happens, but also we respect each other's like separate journeys. And so I was like, I need to heal this pain inside because as good as it was to leave him, I knew I was doing the right thing in leaving him. It still hurt. It was still extremely painful to leave him because we had been together for 8.5 years. We were together from the time I was 22 until I was 31, and it still was very painful. And I still felt like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? Is my kid going to be so fucked up now because his parents split up? Is what's going to happen to my life? Like, what am I even going to do? Because at the time I had nowhere to go. I didn't have any family in Grand Lake. I had, just moved there. I'd only lived there for, less than a year.
Hmm.
And I ended up living at the Western Riviera, where I worked as a housekeeper and paid rent. I had it deducted from my paycheck. And I left him with 3 laundry baskets because he wouldn't let me take anything. I took my clothes, my toiletries, and a few of Gunner's things so that he had something when he was with me. And I was like, I'm not going to fight you for anything else because I'm done fighting you. Like I don't care about the TV. I don't care about the pots and pans. I don't care about any of that shit. Just stay away from me. And even though I knew I was doing the right thing, it's still just, oh man, it just, my heart still broke, because I loved him when I married him, and I saw the potential in him, right? And I realized that I was in love with his potential. I wasn't in love with the man that was in front of me. And when you love the potential in somebody, you're gonna end up with heartbreak,
Yeah. It
because
sets an expectation, right? That
right,
won't be met.
right, and so I've learned since then to not put expectations on people and to just see them where they are for who they show me they are. And I can still see the potential in people. I can still see the light inside of people. But I realize that you can't wake anybody up if they're not ready to be woken up. And so I had to wake myself up from all of this and realize like he has the potential to be a really great, great man, but he doesn't see that potential. And until he does, he will never be that person. And
Right.
that, I think, is what broke my heart the most was I loved the idea of who I thought he could be and not actually the person that I married. And that really is kind of fucks with your brain a little bit because you're like, whoa, I actually am responsible in a way for my own suffering. I allowed this to happen. And so I had to take the mushrooms, actually allowed me to have this realization that I am responsible for my own suffering, right? Like, was I afraid? Yes, very much afraid. Did he abuse me? Yes, he definitely abused me. Did he do all these awful things to me? He totally did. I stayed though, right? I stayed there because I was afraid to leave, but also because I just kept trying to help him, trying to help him be better. And he used to ask me, "Please help me be better. Please help me. I need your help. I need your help. I need your help." Like did everything I possibly could. Called the VA because he was in the army too, so he's got some PTSD from that. But I took him to the VA. I made the appointments. I did the paperwork. I talked to the counselors. I talked to the doctors. I picked up the meds. I gave him the meds. I did everything I possibly could, you know. But if he's not going to be an active participant in his own healing, I'm just running on a fucking hamster wheel, going nowhere and
Right.
doing a whole lot of
Right.
work, you
How
know?
would you know in that moment, though? I mean, in that moment, you really truly were trying to
Right.
help the two of you,
Oh yeah.
for that saving the relationship,
Oh yeah. And
and
so
he seemed
I
open to it, but then if you had to give him his medication, I mean, he's not responsible enough to
no.
proactively do any of this on his own. It's like kind of on a hamster wheel, but I understand your effort, in trying to make it work.
Yeah. And I really
Yep.
tried, but you know, I think leaving him is the best thing I could have done for him. And
Yeah.
actually my
He's an
kid,
adult. Yeah.
yeah, and actually my son in his incredible child wisdom, he said to me one day, because he was asking me, he's like, you know, well, did you ever try to help my dad? And I said, I did. I tried to help your dad. Did XYZ over and over and over again, trying to help your dad. And, I can't help someone who's not helping themselves. And he
Correct.
goes, well, I think he said to me, he goes, well, you leaving him did help him because you made him see that he had to do it on his own,
Mhm.
you
Right.
know? And I'm
Yeah.
just like,
That is wise for 15. Holy cow. Yeah.
he was
True.
yeah, he was like this was
It's got
last
to,
I think he was 12 when he said this to me and I'm just like,
gosh.
"Oh my God." I'm like, "This is incredible." Like in that moment I was like, I didn't fuck it up. Like leaving his dad was the best thing. My
Yeah.
son sees that. Dan, I don't think saw that until recently. But I think he realizes now, like, we weren't right for each other. We weren't meant to be together. We are completely different people with completely different ideas and goals and like dreams in life. And me leaving him, especially leaving him up in the mountains to where he's isolated now, basically, uh, allowed him this space and to be free of distractions to actually kind of be like, maybe I'm the problem in my own life. But the mushrooms, I've had so many incredible visions while on mushrooms. And the last time I did them was last month, actually, it was in August. I went camping with one of my girlfriends. And she, so that she was going through a lot of stuff too. And I was just like, well, I'll bring some mushrooms and we can do mushrooms and we can, you know, find the piece that needs to be healed and we'll do this. And I had a great vision from Metatron, which is like a very ancient god, angel. Actually, Metatron, I think, is an angel. But he told me that I was going to be doing incredible things in my life and to just stay on my path. Right. Because at the time I was just like, I don't know if what I'm doing is right. I do a lot. I work at a high school. It's my day job, not my dream job, but it's my day job. And I love the students. I love the people I work with, but you know, schools don't pay well. So I also do graphic design for Pinup Style magazine. I am in finance now, which is how we met with Transamerica. And I was just like, am I doing too much? What should I be doing in my life? And I was just like, I just felt like I was at this kind of crossroads and I'm like, I'm going to start this new financial journey. Um, I love my graphic design work. I love doing art and I love the pinup world and the group of women that we have that are so supportive and uplifting and like the sisterhood that I've always wanted. Am I supposed to stay at the school even though it's keeping me very broke? But in this journey, it was like he told me school is a distraction. The magazine needs to stay. but my focus should be in this financial sector. And I was like, oh, thank you so much for sharing this with me. And I had kept pulling his card because I pull cards for myself. I have this Masters of Light deck. I have a Goddess deck. I have some Oracle cards, and I pull three cards. Um, and Metatron kept coming up. And I did a painting with Metatron's cube, which is one of the sacred geometries. And it's just been like this thing that kept reoccurring. And so I feel like mushrooms, when you go into it with intention, right? If you go into it with a question or with a purpose, that that purpose or that intention becomes very, very clear. And so when I was leaving Dan, and I was laying out on the ice, and I was like, am I doing the right thing? All of this stuff has happened. I had this message that was given to me that was like, you are doing the right thing. You don't have to, like, I don't have to know where I'm going to end up right now. Just allow it to take you down the river, right? And when you start having the thoughts in your head and the cyclical thinking and the overthinking and just that negative chatter in your brain, you know, ignore it. Pretend it's like a cloud and you're just watching it. You see the cloud, you observe the cloud, but you're not going to hang on to the cloud. You can't grab it, right? It's not a
I
thing you
love
can.
that analogy, Stephanie. I love
Yeah,
that. I love that.
yeah.
Just
And
you can see it, it's in the distance, and
right.
just watch it float on by.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. Thanks.
I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna use that for my own
Good, good. And
work.
I still
Yeah,
do it,
that's great.
and I learned this in a book that's I think it's called Becoming Your Own Therapist, and it's by um uh I can't remember who it's by, but I have a whole bunch of books on Buddhism and the Tao and uh, Kundalini and Tantric Buddhism, which is actually not about sex stuff. Tantric Buddhism is actually more about finding the joy in the mundane and finding the beauty in, in everything, even if it's hard to find, right? There's always something that you can find in every situation, whether it's a lesson, even if it was kind of a hard lesson to learn, there's always something beautiful that comes out of every situation. And through this practice, you know, I have really been able to change my life and have learned that, other people's problems and other people's perceptions and other people's projections, like it's got nothing to do with me. It's got literally nothing to do with me. Even if they think it has something to do with me, it doesn't. It's some kind of, you know, predisposed thought that they've had in their head, some kind of prejudice or some kind of seed that's been in their head, maybe even subconsciously that they don't even realize is there. And I'm triggering that somehow, or something is triggering that somehow. But like, it's never about the thing that you think it is, right? It's always about some kind of inner belief. Challenge your own beliefs then, right?
Yeah,
If you're triggered all the time,
yeah. It's
find the
hard for
source
people to
of that trigger.
identify what that is, though, you know?
Right. And so a lot of finding that root, right? I've discovered through mushrooms, right? The mushrooms open the pathways. So then you can be like, why is this making me feel this way? I don't understand. And then you eat the mushrooms and you're like, oh,
You
I understand.
microdose a lot.
Yes, I do.
Like, do you do like 5 day? I've heard that 5 days on, 2 days off is a good regimen. Is that what you do?
I was on a more strict regimen for a while, and I was actually getting these capsules that were Stamets stack. So like Paul Stamets is like the father of mycology. He's brilliant mushroom scientist. He developed what they call a Stamets stack now, which is like non-flushing niacin, lion's mane, and golden teacher psilocybin mushrooms. The golden teachers are really the strain that I that I have always used. I've tried some other ones and haven't had the same experience. But with golden teachers, I feel like they're called that because they do teach you things that you didn't know. They've taught me more about myself, which in turn has taught me so much about other people, right? And other people's behaviors and their projections and why they do the things they do. And also, I love psychology. So I've taken a deep dive into psychology for the past 9 years too, because, you know, why are people like this? Why are people this way? Why am I this way? Why am I treating people like this? Why am I judging somebody? I want to be non-judgmental. Well, why am I judging somebody on something stupid? Because these things were ingrained in me at a young age.
Right.
And so it's about unlearning,
Yeah.
right? And reparenting yourself and becoming who you really are, right? And we are limitless beings. We are truly limitless beings, but you have to believe that you're a limitless being. Otherwise, you're putting limiting beliefs on yourself and other people. When people tell you, oh, you can't do that, they can't do that. They can't do that. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You can be amazing at literally anything. There's literally nothing you cannot do. But when people say, oh, you're not going to do that, that's not going to work out for you, that's going to blow up in your face, you're never going to make any money, that's not, just negative, 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 bullshit, 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 that's them. That's their negative limiting belief that they
Yeah.
are
So true.
projecting onto you. It has nothing to
So
do with
true.
you, you know? So, like
Have
my
you
grandpa
had
used to tell
have
me,
you had in your microdosing, have you had any negative teaching experiences?
I've done a lot of shadow work. So I've done a lot of shadow work, which was having to uncover those judgmental parts of myself, having to uncover, you know, the shame that I used to put onto myself. So a lot of it has been like shame reclamation, which I've done with another mentor who's amazing. She actually has a podcast too. Her name is Lindsay Means, and her podcast is called Finding Your Way. It's WAI, which is for like I think it's Who Am I? And so she and she was mentoring me for a while. I was a part of her circle, and you know I've learned so much from her. And especially with shame reclamation, she has a whole course on shame reclamation and how to overcome the shame that we feel for things. Because there's no purpose, right? If it doesn't serve you, it's taking from you. And when you're shaming yourself all the time, you're not able to grow, right? You have to forgive yourself. You have to be able to forgive yourself. You have to be able to forgive others. You have to be able to, if you grow and evolve, sometimes you have to even grieve parts of yourself that you're leaving behind because they don't serve you anymore. You know, 21-year-old party girl Stephanie no longer serves me at 39 years old today. So I grieve that young part of me that is gone, but she still lives inside of me. You know, the little Stephanie inside of me still lives in there. And so I've had to, reparent myself as a little girl, re-guide myself as a young woman. And now, because I've gotten rid of the shame and I've done my shadow work, I have no more personal limiting beliefs. And when you do your shadow work, that's what happens, right? You make friends with the parts of yourself that you feel are ugly, that you feel are not worthy of being out in the light. But all the parts of you are worthy, and all of the parts of you are valuable and deserving of love. I've had anger in me for decades. Just the rage that I can summon inside of me, if it could be like shown on the outside, it'd be like a nuclear bomb going off, just destroying everything, you know? And I've had to learn, anger is a really great tool if you know how to use it and guide it and direct it. If you don't allow it to take over and hijack your brain and your emotions, anger is a wonderful thing. It shows you where your boundaries are being crossed or where something is happening that is not good for you. So instead of letting the rage just explode and have me go off on like this crazy screaming rampage, I did my shadow work. And now when I feel my anger, I can hold it gently, like my little shadow baby, and it's just, I can,
This is the
I can
shadow
use
work something that came up while you were in your macro dose? Or
yes.
have you done like mini shadow experiences through the micro dosing?
So both. Um, I did some microdosing a few weeks ago after my camping trip, and by the third day, my anger that I didn't realize I was still holding on to bubbled out, and I kind of snapped on one of my friends. Like I said some really mean shit to him, and as I was saying it, I'm like, this is wrong. Like in the back of my head, like I knew what I was saying was wrong and bad, you know, but there was so much underlying that I felt like I just don't have the time to confront these things right now because I have this going on and I have this going on and this and this and this and, chores and work and laundry and groceries and kid and husband and self-care and dog and cats and just, I don't have time to sit with it and journal or pull cards or, do anything that I would typically do to, all right, let me confront this, let me let it go. So once I exploded at my friend, I realized, oh shit, the mushrooms helped me bring that up by the third day. And we talked, we're good now. We had a very long conversation and I apologized to him for being mean to him and making him feel stupid, basically. And um, you know, the mushrooms bring up the best and the worst. And before you do them, you should be a little scared, right? I mean, you're about to go into a journey and each time it's different. Sometimes it's blissful and euphoric, and sometimes it's like, hey, you are avoiding something. We're not going to let you avoid that anymore. And so microdosing can do the same thing, but with a macrodose, I feel like it's like one and done. Like microdosing is wonderful, and sometimes it's great, but you need to take breaks from that sometimes too. More than 2 days. Sometimes I'll go a few weeks or even a month without doing anything. But it does bring up some of the shadow work. Mushrooms will bring up whatever you're avoiding, good or bad. If you're avoiding your potential, it's going to bring that up. If you're avoiding your shadow, it's going to bring that up. And both are equally healing.
Was there like a moment in the macro where you kind of you went through like the harder stuff and then you had this revelation transitional moment and then everything got blissful? Because I haven't done a macro dose before. I've attempted it once and I did it with a girlfriend and I didn't do it. I didn't dose myself right and it wasn't a great experience. So I need assistance. If I do it again, I'm going to have a professional person with me
Right.
and just hire somebody to sit with me so I can get to the other side of all of it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because we all have work to do. So
Yeah.
tell me like the shadow work, and then we'll close here because we're at an hour and a half. Let's talk just briefly, like the experiences when you were in it. Did you see colors? What did you hallucinate? Visual things, and like what were the visuals that you saw and the different things that kind of showed up as you progressed through it? Because it's like a 3 4 hour to 6 hour experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like there was moments of evolution through all of that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So
So
there's a
tell us
couple
what
of
it felt like
different,
when you were kind of coming out of it.
so
And
there's
like,
there's two experiences that I can think of off the top of my head that were very different, but offered very similar kind of outcomes. So one of the times I was up in Rocky Mountain National Park, and I was with my girlfriend, who she's my adventure buddy. That's what we call each other now. Um, we asked another friend who grew up in Grand, like, hey, what's a really great hike to do up in Rocky? And she's like, oh, you should go to Lake Irene. So we're like, cool. We've never been to Lake Irene. If anyone's been to Lake Irene, it's a 1/4 mile loop. It's not a hike. It's like it's a 1/4 mile stroll. It's like going around the block. And so it's just like, we're like, sweet, we're gonna go on this hike. So we're in the parking lot, we eat our mushrooms, and we start walking. And I'm like, is this the lake? It's like right here off the parking lot. And then we like walk around the loop and we're like, okay. And then by the time we get back, I'm like, I'm feeling it. So like we can't drive anywhere now. Like I can't take us somewhere else. So we're like, all right, what are we gonna do? We decided to just walk. And we just walked off into the woods and we found a deer trail. And we followed this deer path into this opening that was this incredibly beautiful meadow. And there was like, it was kind of marshy. And so, like, the water just sparkled. It just looked like sparkling water. And there was flowers growing out of it. And the sky was blue. And there was these big puffy clouds. And there was this one tree that just, both of us just like kind of looked at this tree. And I was just like, we have to go sit over here because I don't know if everybody experiences this, but I see energy when I'm on mushrooms. I see energy. I feel everything. And so like I can't be around like power poles because it feels like it gives me this gross feeling inside. I
Yeah.
hate
Like
it so.
buzzy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and it kind of just feels like it's
Yes.
like squeezing you inside or something.
Mhm.
And so this tree though, this big, beautiful tree just had this kind of like iridescent glow around it. And it's like, we need to go lay under this tree. And so we like walk over there and we just laid on the ground and we're looking at cloud shapes and like just laughing and having a good time. And we spent a few hours there. And then we come walking out of the woods and we got sticks in our hair and we're covered in dirt and leaves and we're all wet from the marshy area. And we head back to this like picnic area and we're like, all right, we're not quite ready to like drive anywhere yet, but like I can tell like I'm about to approach like this last wave. And I'm like, okay, I was like, I want to sit and meditate. And so I sat on top of this picnic table and there's like nobody else around, really, just the two of us. I was like, so I started meditating and you focus like on your third eye, right? So you put all of your focus, you close your eyes, you move your eyes up to this point inside your head and just breathe, right? And so I'm having this meditation and I feel myself like leave my body and just kind of observe myself and my girlfriend who's there with me. And I just feel grounded. Even though I felt I was above myself, I felt more grounded than I've ever felt in my life. And I didn't see hallucinations, but like what mushrooms will do, which is pretty cool, the visuals are very cool. You know, I open my eyes and I'm still kind of in this trance kind of meditative state. And I see the trees and they just kind of look like they're breathing with me. Like every breath I take, like they take, and they kind of just move slightly, like I can't even describe it, like kind of swirly and like fluid, but still a structure. It's hard to describe what the visuals are like, but colors are more vivid and more beautiful, and you just I felt like I am nature. Like in society, we are so far removed from nature. And so when I do mushrooms, I do them intentionally and I always do them outside. I find a safe place I can go outside where I can be nature again. and it's a magical feeling, and it really kind of brings you back to yourself in a way that I can't describe unless you do it. Like in society, we're so removed from it. And I try to go hiking or I go to the lake or, whatever. It's never the same though. And the other time I had some pretty intense visuals. I closed my eyes and it was like this crazy thunderstorm outside. And so I had to come inside, which I don't like being indoors on mushrooms because it feels almost suffocating. Like my energy is too massive that like the walls are like closing me in. And but it gives you a whole different experience, right? So I closed my eyes and I have like these wolves coming to me and they just all surround me and they are snarling at me and it's like they want to attack me, but then there's this one wolf who just guards me and like won't let them, and I feel like that was my light, you know. I am a guardian. I have always protected my little brother, my friends, my kids. Like I am a fierce protector of people. And in that moment, I felt like, my mom's coming for me, my grandma hates me, my aunts hate me, my ex-husband hates me. I'm pissing people off at work because I'm such a basket case right now because I'm going through a divorce and have never been in such a dark place in my life. And like, whew, you know, but it was like, I am okay. I have this fierce protector inside of me. What's more ferocious than a wolf, you know? There's not really anything. A wolf can take down a mountain lion, can take down a moose, take down an elk, can take down other wolves, you know? So I knew that like I am divinely protected. I am divinely guided and loved. And I'm not religious, but I'm very, very spiritual. And I do believe that I am truly divinely protected. There are so many times in my life where I'm amazed that I didn't die. I was definitely pushing the boundaries of this would probably kill other people, but I had this incredible moment where it's like, oh my God, these wolves are going to eat me. But I knew I'm inside the house right now, so I'm not truly in danger. But like, no matter who's coming for me, like I'm protected. Nothing can hurt me.
I love that metaphor.
Yes.
It's so true.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
the wolves maybe represented your past,
Right.
right? And then the one that's protecting you is representing your future and your present.
Hmm.
That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yes.
Because I am so honored that you came on and you shared your story. You
Thank you.
are a badass. I can't,
Thank you.
you have, you are the perfect example of resilience, right?
I
And
am quite
persevering
resilient.
through
Yeah.
some dark, dark shit.
Oh, yeah. I've
I,
been in the deepest, darkest places, and I've been, and now I feel like I'm in this, I'm in the light again. And I've been through the darkness. I've navigated the darkness. I try to help other people navigate their darkness and understand like it feels scary, but it's not going to crush you. It's not going to destroy you. Like no matter what it is, like it can only destroy you if you allow it to destroy you, right? And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. But like you're going to be fine. It's going to be okay. As long as you remind yourself that. And even if at first you don't believe it, keep saying that shit, right? They say, practice makes perfect. It's true,
yeah,
with everything. And it just takes practice. Just be like, oh man, oh my God, I fucked up today. I'm so stupid. No, no, you're not stupid. You might have done a stupid thing, but like, who cares? We all fuck up. We all do stupid shit. Don't shame yourself for it. just take the lesson
Yeah.
and move on. It's
Hmm.
going to be okay.
It's a
All
beautiful
in good
thing.
time. Yeah.
Did you send me any links? Do you want to link your magazine?
Yeah. Let
Bottom of
me
the show notes.
I will send
And
this to you because we have an Instagram page and a Facebook page. We do lots of events. We
okay,
sponsor a lot of events, and
fabulous.
we accept all people, all body types, all ages, all genders, like everybody. It's completely inclusive, you know. Even if you've never done pinup before, we do events where you can be whatever style you want to be. I've always really loved pinup. I discovered Betty Page when I was 18 and just fell in love with her. And it's just kind of been my journey since then, like as a pinup girl. And so yeah, I would love to share that with anybody who's
Yeah.
involved. We take submissions from men. We have a whole issue that's dedicated to men, which is pretty amazing. I'm actually working on a volume right now that has some guys in it. And so I'm always trying to get more guys. Like, come on, guys, let's get the dudes on board too, because there's it's so much fun when they get into
I
it.
love that. I love that. So the people that are
Yeah.
in your magazine for pinup, they write articles or and then
Oh
there's
yeah, we
pictures
have
taken, or how does that all look?
so we have a whole bunch of photographers that we work with. We'll work with any photographer really, but we have some that like work with our magazine specifically. The models are from all over the world and all over the country. We do have an article. We have like a Dear Dottie, which where you'll send Dottie a question and she'll write an answer in the magazine. Sometimes we'll have like small articles. We'll feature different models or different photographers. We'll feature designers because there's so many incredible designers that live in Colorado too. There's some locally up here in northern Colorado. There's a whole bunch in Denver. There's a huge like underground like club scene in Denver. And they're doing amazing things, you know. And so it's just like we just want to celebrate everybody's individuality and their uniqueness. And, you
Beautiful.
know, if it scares you, good. Like do
Yeah.
something scary, right?
Yeah.
Because you might love it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on.
Yes.
Blessings to you, my love. And we'll put all that info in the show notes. And I'm going to turn the record up, but stay on for a second, okay? After.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. We'll see you next time.